Have you lost the connection with your higher self? Are you noticing the dis-ease of the outside world? It's time to reconnect with nature and each other and raise our consciousness, vibration, and frequency. Together we can create a world of peace and abundance. It's Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Revolution Radio. Today I have Della Hill. Della actually follows me every Monday on the radio with the Extraordinary Talk Show, Mondays at 4:30 on Radio St. George. So make sure you listen and watch her on Facebook Live, right?
Yes.
Facebook Live every week. And you know what? Della has a lot of talents. So I'm going to let her talk about them, but just a quick intro for her. She's an RN. She's been in nursing. She is an empath. She's somewhat psychic. Right?
We all are.
We all are, yes. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. But really, we would just want to talk about like how energy works and how we can use it in our daily lives to grow and experience and understand who we truly are as human beings. Welcome to the show, Della.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. You know, I've seen Della every week. I actually met her at an event we were at a year or two ago.
Oh, it was more than that. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Well, I tend to shorten things. So we've known each other actually for quite a while. And of course, she follows me every Monday and we see each other coming in out of the studio on the radio shows. And I just don't really know exactly what you do. So kind of tell us a little bit about you. Give us the nickel tour here, if you will.
My me in 30 seconds. I haven't had a me in 30 seconds set up in a little while. It also depends on what job I'm applying for. But I do have a good bit of experience doing a lot of different things. One of the fun parts of my life that made me very much into who I am was I was a foster mother for 8 years. I had 53 foster kids, and I won 2 national awards, which definitely taught me. I mean, I was teaching skills to those kids, but I was the one learning the skills, and that made me so much of who I am. And from there, I went on to nursing, and from nursing, I went on to spirituality. And I've been deep into what I would deem heavy spirituality for probably about a little bit before I met you, probably about 5 years ago.
So what brought you into spirituality from nursing? And I mean, 53 foster kids, that just scares me even hearing, but what an amazing thing. Good job. But what brought you into this spiritual world? What brought you here, and what are you doing with it?
Well, we all have kind of our path, our journey, right? And there's no correct path. There's no exact path that you have to follow. You can make all the choices and all the mistakes all along the way, and you can't get it wrong because there's always more choices to get it right. For me, I was raised Mormon, and I was strong and firm in the Mormon faith until I was about 37. And at that point, I started seeing things differently, and I moved away from that. But when I moved away from that, I had had the strong faith my whole life, and I still needed to have some kind of faith. So I went through basically everything I believed, or I'm still actually working on doing that because it's not a quick process. But one by one, figuring out each concept. Do I believe this, and why? Is it something that I've learned off of my own experience, or is it something that somebody told me? And if so, maybe if just somebody told me, I'm going to put that over on the maybe shelf and investigate that later. But I can't necessarily believe it just because somebody told me. I need to know these things from my own experience. And another way that I know things is from my own intuition and my higher self confirming them to me. But that gives me more truth than I could get from any classroom anywhere. But I've spent the last few years, like I said, figuring out what I do believe, what paths I do want to follow, and learning concepts about the universe that I had just never learned before, like things like law of vibration and law of attraction that we all use in our lives every day. And as soon as I learned how to use that, my life changed. In fact, when I went back and looked at all the different things in my life and how differently I want to live now, my life obviously changed. I couldn't prevent it from changing. That being said, it's pretty awesome. I have a really great life. I'm so happy.
So what changed in your life? Tell me what brought you to that point because you moved into spirituality for a reason, and obviously things went on in your life that brought about that change, or something clicked for you, or energy changed, whatever it happens to be. But what was that for you?
Well, we're all seeking, right? Anybody who's listening or watching to this right now is someone who's seeking, who wants some answers, who knows that there's answers out there that they just haven't found yet, right? And that's where I was. I mean, we still are. But I was at work and I had a job where I could do my job on one computer screen and watch YouTube on the other computer screen. And I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And I think I was Googling life hacks. And I wasn't looking for paperclip tricks. I was trying to figure out there's more to life than this. I know that there is. There's more than I have here. And then I'm watching YouTube, and you know, the universe doesn't necessarily work in mysterious ways. It works in very intentional ways. And things that we think are accidents and coincidences are not. So a recommended video popped up, and the next one that came up just started playing, and it was a video about a 15-minute life hack by a man named Vishen Lakhiani, who has become one of my teachers.
Yeah, from Mind Valley.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
I've met him several times and been on stage with him. So, yeah. So
Okay.
I know him very well.
I intend to.
In fact, I had his wife on my show just a few weeks ago.
kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Anyway,
we'll
sorry,
talk
I
more
didn't
about
mean to
him.
interrupt. Yeah.
Okay, so I had never seen him before, never heard of him before, didn't know what Mind Valley was, but he gave this talk about meditation. And where I was in my life looking for something, looking for the answers, looking for whatever. I didn't even know what it was I was looking for, but I was looking for something. And when that came on, he did a short meditation as part of the talk, and so I closed my eyes and did the meditation along with it. I went home that day and I meditated, and my life has not been the same since.
Okay. So was that the first time you ever meditated?
Really, it was. Yeah. I mean, I've closed my eyes and breathed for a few minutes, but never with the clear intention of what I wanted to get out of it. And I'd never followed a guided meditation. And Vishen Lakhiani, by the way, has his 6-phase meditation, which is the one I started with, and it's still my favorite to go back to.
Very good to go to.
Excellent. I recommend that for any beginner or long-term experienced meditator who wants just a little bit of help.
So, okay. So you came about this spiritual revolution, if you will. We'll just add it to the show.
It's definitely been that.
And so you got into the spiritual revolution. Obviously, probably some life changes going on, and you know we all have those things. And now tell us what you're doing with it, with your talk show, with what you're doing now. What are you doing now that's different?
Well, let's see. My life today looks very, very different from what it did 7 years ago. And I had a friend actually, when I was starting meditating, this was one of my very, very closest friends. And I told her about some of the experiences I was having from meditating and the things I was getting out of it. And she looked at me very sternly and she said, Della, you are replacing prayer with meditation, and you're replacing God with the universe, and you're going to be really upset when your whole life falls apart.
Oh, wow.
Right? But the thing was, she wasn't entirely wrong, and I probably should have paid a little bit better attention. I don't believe I was replacing anything with anything, because I use prayer and I use meditation, and I get more from it now than I did when I just used prayer. And now I have a relationship with God as the universe, not just as God. And I definitely get more out of that than I did before. However, there was no way my life could not change. Among those changes are career changes and marital changes. I was married for 23 years and I'm not now. And somebody asked me once what my goals were. In fact, I was on another podcast and somebody asked me what my goals were. And what I've figured out, my biggest goal is to do what the universe wants me to do, because the universe knows way more than I do. The universe has it figured out. The universe knows what my abilities are, what my potentials are, and the universe can guide me to that better than I ever can. So actually, about 2 months ago, I sat down and I wrote out a letter to the universe, a contract. And I said, here's the deal. I surrender. You know more than I do. You've got it figured out. You know what I planned before I came to Earth that I don't remember. Get me there. I will do my absolute best to follow the intuition. I will do my best to follow the prompts, to follow the guidance and go where you want me to go, and get me there. And I'm calling this my wild soul experiment. And I'm basically letting the universe make my choices for me. And it's only been a month and a half, but so far it's going really well.
No, and I think people kind of, like, we've been conditioned for so long to, like, think we have to be a certain way, think we have to do certain things, and we're caught in this whirlwind of negativity and unhappiness that we don't have to be stuck in when we realize that it's our higher self that's truly who we are, not this body.
Right.
Like I'm not this body you see before you. I just work with this body.
This
to
body
have
is a
experience.
manifestation of your higher self.
Exactly. And once you kind of come into touch with that, once you understand that, and through meditation is how I teach people too. You know, I always teach people every morning, first 10 minutes of your day at least should be going through your meditative state, having gratitude for what's going to be, and just accepting what's going to be. And we always get put out to the universe, this is how it should be, right? This is how it should be. I already know it, and you better give it to me this way. But that's not how, you just said it. That's not how the universe works.
There are no shoulds in the universe.
Yeah, if you surrender, just let it be, all of a sudden, and I talk with my hands. Hi, everybody. I talk with my hands. It comes to you. You're so good.
Well, no, you should talk with your hands. You should talk with your hands. The best TED talkers use a lot of hand motions, so use your hands.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
There you go.
So we do that, and we get so stuck in this place, expecting and having expectations, right, of how things should be, rather than letting things be.
And what I've learned is that when you let things be, the universe gives you cooler stuff than what you were planning on for yourself.
Absolutely, it does.
And
it puts people in front of you, and it puts experiences in front of you, and it puts opportunities in front of you that you would never, ever get on your own. But we're so stuck in this
And not only
conditioning.
that, but manifestations. When I'm asking the universe for something, I don't say, I want a yellow Camaro, 2017. I say, you know what I'd like? I'd really like a sporty car. I think it's time for me to have a sporty car. Something fast, sexy, fun. I want a sporty car. And
So what did you get?
I got a Mercedes AMG in 3 days.
There you go. Yellow?
No, it's silver.
Oh, okay. I like silver better.
But that was I bring that up to brag just a little bit. But also, that was a big thing where I learned from the universe. I had put it out, this is what I want. I want a car that's fast, sexy, sporty, fun. And I imagined many, many different cars in my driveway. I pictured a yellow Camaro. I pictured a red Mustang. I pictured a lot of things. I didn't picture a Mercedes. It didn't occur to me to picture a Mercedes. But 2 days later, when my friend mentioned this amazing Mercedes that was for sale that just happened to be in my price range, I drove home a Mercedes because the universe knew that there was something out there that was even better than what I had hoped for.
And you say universe, but really, anyway, we can call it anything, God, source, whatever. You know, it's really the same thing depending on what perspective you're coming from, right?
I think some other words that are synonymous are life and freedom and love.
Well, we all should live in love.
Well, that's how God lives.
Right. And, God lives that way. I think that's where source is. That's what source truly is
love.
Is coming from love, right? And I like to tell people, if you can just learn to be in love, and I'm not saying in love with a person or anything else. It's just in love with life, with people, with events, with even the sad things that happen in your life, right? Because of the things that come from those things, then your whole life changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the secret is learning how to do that. I mean, you went through your experiences. You had a 23-year marriage, right, that you were talking about. You obviously it couldn't have been pleasant going through the exit of that. We all have our own experiences in life and our own problems that happen to us, but it's how you address that problem. It's how you go into that problem. You can meet someone who has the exact same problem as someone else and lives in misery, and then you can meet the person with that problem that lives in joy, and you're like, what's the difference?
Well, it's only a problem if you call it a problem. Right. Nothing has any meaning until you assign meaning to it.
Well, yeah, there is no existence other than this moment either. So
exactly,
everything else is
and
just
isn't it a
up.
beautiful moment?
So, the past is made up, the future's made up. Everything is just right in this moment, right? And you have to make the best of it. And that's what I love about every time I come in, I ask you what you're talking about today, and it's so funny how so many times you're talking about the same thing that I was just talking about on my show before. it's just really interesting how the universe works, right? Or source works in bringing those things together for everybody.
Absolutely. Like I said, there's no accidents, there's no coincidences. A coincidence is the perfect coming together of 2 points. It's intentional. It's not an accident.
So tell me about your life now. Obviously, you've been an RN. What are you doing now with your life? You're not an RN, or you are now?
I still am working as a registered nurse, which
Okay.
I'll give you the brief part of this story. In the last few years, I went through a very, very deep, very difficult depression. What I kind of understand now on the other side of it is that my soul knew it was time to move on. And my mind was super committed to some long-term, long-held beliefs. And my mind and my soul had a desperate tug of war. And that manifested in my body as a ridiculous, desperate depression. And it was a process for me to come out of that. One of the first miracles that came to me, because I didn't just ask the universe for help. I didn't just beg the universe for help. I screamed to the universe for help. And one of the first miracles that came to me was this job. It just literally landed in my lap. And I turned it down at first. I said, no, I don't want that. But I could see the signs from the universe telling me this was the right job. And I take care of old people in a care center, and they heal my heart. These people give me so much love back. And so I still love that job. I would love to do it. I would love to spend a little bit less time doing it than I currently do, but I absolutely love that job. Another thing that I'm currently doing is, as you know, my radio show. I also am a level 2 quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner through Dolores Cannon.
Oh, okay.
I also am a sustained minister, and I can perform weddings. I've performed 3. And currently, the universe is pulling me to use my voice more, where I love speaking on the radio. I love talking about the spiritual things. And the universe is guiding me currently to spend some more time in Las Vegas and do some voice acting work, in addition to all the other things I'm doing right now. So that's the direction I'm going, and I trust that the universe is going to take me some pretty cool places.
I'm telling you what, you have a great radio voice. Just listening to you, I'm like, oh, wow, she has a great radio voice. Yeah, so I'm a little jealous, not going to lie.
I don't know if you want my register. In fact, I think that you're probably a much better singer than I am.
We'll have to check that out one of these times, because I found out before the show you are a singer. So.
Well,
Yeah.
I do karaoke. I don't know if that means that I sing.
Well, we'll have to try it out sometime for sure.
Sure.
We'll put a plug in for Wingnuts right now. So Wingnuts Friday nights, right?
Oh,
Do
we'll
a
have to show up.
karaoke for sure. You're doing this spiritual path,
Mm-hmm.
and what would you tell people in the world today? Like I mean, we've all been through our stuff, right? But what is it? You seem to have come out on the bright side, if you will. So what is it that brings someone to the bright side? I don't know how long it's been since your divorce and things you've been going through, but what brought you through that? What helped you through that path? Let's give our listeners something to learn from, shall we?
For one thing, I had my miracles. My job was one of those miracles. I got to a point in my depression where let me be really real here if I can. No, we only have a few minutes left.
I know. We keep looking at the time.
I got to a point where I couldn't figure out what was worth living for. And I didn't want to die, but I also couldn't figure out why I should be alive.
Right.
And I also realized that I was deep in fear, that my thoughts were deep in fear. And one thing I understand is when you're deep in fear, you do not have access to your higher self and your higher thoughts. And that I needed to allow myself to come out of that fear and to raise myself back up the love register in order to open myself to my higher self, to my higher thoughts, and to some guidance so I could know what the heck I was supposed to be here for. And in that, I surrendered. I screamed to the universe for help, and I said, you better show me. I'm going to give you 6 months, and I'll trust you until then. And at that point, I surrendered. And surrender.
So do you think it was the surrender?
Surrender is a magical, magical tool. You should surrender every moment.
Okay.
And that's part of what I'm doing now with my Wild Soul experiment is surrendering to the universe to let them do everything. Just let the universe take over, because they can do it. They can do it better than I can. And so in that, I stopped fighting. Excuse me. I stopped battling my depression. I stopped trying to do whatever I could to get over it. And I said, just help me. I don't know what to do. Help me. And then the job came. And then prior to that, I didn't believe in love at first sight. But Clifford walked through my front door. And when I met that 130-pound Great Dane, my life changed.
Oh, you have a Great Dane.
I have a Great Dane. He actually comes to the radio station with me sometimes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in fact, he goes to work with me, and he loves those people too. And it's fantastic. And seeing him bring joy to those people has made me happy. He has not only brought me joy, but watching him bring joy to others brings me joy. And that's one thing you got to understand about happiness and joy. If you're looking for something, the way to get more of it is to give it away. And I learned that in my job, that by loving these people who, for the last year, honestly, have had a really rough year. They can't get out of bed. They can't leave their rooms. They can't even see their caregivers' faces.
Right.
And to be there for them in that time has been very powerful for me, to be able to give them the love that they needed in this last year. And through that, I've gotten a whole lot of love back.
You know, I really like the path that you're talking about, because I think people get so caught up in like setting goals and having to do things and pushing, right? And the more you push against anything, the universe, you know, I always hold up my hand to someone, you almost held your hand up, and the more you push, right, you just push back, right? The sooner you let go, everything just falls into place, like the universe lets go. And that's kind of the path you took. You finally just said, I'm going to stop pushing. I'm going to stop making it happen. I'm going to stop trying to say I'm in control, and allow source, allow our extraordinary higher self to take control and just put it into our path, the things that really belong there. And I think people forget that. I know I forget it even still. And I teach everybody every day, you know, through my Life by Design Institute and what I do on the radio show and everything else, you know, but so I forget it, you know, and I go through my little waves, you know, and another natural law of the universe, by the way.
Always.
Right. Is we go through our waves.
The flow, up and down, in and out.
Absolutely. Right. But we do that and forget that. And it's great that you've been able to do that and hold on so long, right? So congratulations. Tell people how they can get a hold of you. I mean, obviously the radio show, Mondays, Radio St. George, 4:30. I got that one in there for you. But how do people get a hold of you, get to know you better, find out what you do, et cetera?
Well, if you want to listen to the radio show, like you said, it's Mondays at 4:30. My radio show, The Extraordinary Talk Show, is on pretty much any podcast format, but the trick to finding it is you have to go through Radio St. George 100.3. So find Radio St. George 100.3 on Spotify, Podbean, anywhere, and under that you'll find The Extraordinary Talk Show. And that's me talking for 25 minutes every week about how you can change your thoughts to make your life better, which is something that I have definitely done over the last few years.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's awesome.
You can also email me if you're interested in having me officiate your wedding or having a past life regression hypnosis session with QHHT. You can email me at Dellarina13, that's DELLARINA13 at yahoo.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, Della, thanks for being on the show today. One last question, and then I'll take the last 30 seconds or so that come up. But what would you say to everyone, like right in this moment? What is the one thing you would say to everyone that they need to know before we leave the show today?
Trust your intuition. No one, no thing can give you more information than what your own intuition can give you. Shel Silverstein said, there is a voice inside of us that whispers all day long. I know that this is right for me. I know that that is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. And the more you listen to it, the more practice you get listening to it. You'll notice when you hear it, when you don't listen to it, because you'll make a mistake. It'll say, hey, don't forget your wallet. And you'll go, oh, grab it in a minute. And then you forget your wallet. Learn when it's talking to you. Pay attention to those things. And pretty soon you start picking it up. And pretty soon you start following it even more without even knowing you're following it.
I agree with that. And I also say, learn to ask. Listen to the whispers of your heart, right? The heart will never lie. So,
It doesn't. That's your truth teller.
Yep. It's short, sweet, but it's great. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. I look forward to getting to know you more now. So that's awesome. Thank you for being on the show and being with me. But join us next week as we do Spiritual Revolution Radio.
This has been Spiritual Revolution Radio with Dr. Will Miller. For more information or to be a guest, please visit lifebydesign.institute. Join us next week for another edition of Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller. This has been a production from a podcast studio.